It's time for another episode of The Cheat Sheet.
The podcast where we interview top VCE performers
And deconstruct the strategies they use to achieve incredible results at school and in life.
Yeah, let's do it.
We should be doing the intro now.
Do you want to maybe...
Do you going to give me the honors? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, it's such a
2,
privilege.
1.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of The Cheat Sheet, the podcast where we interview the top performers of the VC universe. I'm joined today by Mon and Steve. We're about to roll on the very first episode. How excited are we?
I am so excited. 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
12. No, I'm just
Oh,
going to one up.
we're all going to try and one-up each other now. I see it is.
All right, nothing can be more than 100%. That's what I learned in further maths back in the Stone Age.
So, Steve, we're interviewing top performers of the VC universe, but what exactly are they? What are top performers?
Absolutely. Now, the cheat sheet's definition of top performing VCE students is a little bit different to what you might think. It's not just focusing on the score or getting great results. We want to think about it as we want to find a collection of VCE humans that have rocked in other aspects as well. So we're looking at well-balanced, well-rounded individuals, people that have been able to maintain really positive relationships, been able to maintain a part-time job or extracurricular activities. They may have held a leadership position during school. Heck, they may have started a business while they're still at school, yet been able to get through their VCE and do it in a way that sort of distinguishes themselves as a bit of a rock star of the universe.
Yeah, it's just not just about nailing your education, is it? It's about sort of nailing life in general.
Exactly. But Mon, it's even more than that, isn't it?
It is. And I think the awesome thing that we're going to find along these podcasts is that everyone has this unique experience of VCE. Everyone does it slightly different. And we might have people who got similar results or people who did it differently, and everyone's just got that, as I said, that unique experience.
Sure, you had the pleasure of interviewing the first guest as
First.
well.
You're the
The
first.
very
The
first.
very
It
first.
was a special
What an
job.
honor. And so what have we got to
was.
look forward to? We're obviously going to listen to it in just a moment's time, but give us a bit of a tease. What are we going to hear?
So I interviewed someone who did get those top marks. He was most certainly a top performer of VCE, and he's now started pursuing his dream, if you like, at university, studying medicine. He got involved with leadership in year 12. He was school captain. As I mentioned, he got an incredible ATAR, 50 in English.
Wow.
Big achievements. So you've got a lot of valuable advice coming your way.
So listeners, strap yourself in, sit back, relax, put the notes down, and get ready for our first episode of The Cheat Sheet.
Hi everyone, this is Monique, and we have a very exciting first interview in store for you today. I am very lucky and very happy to be joined by one of my very good friends, Mr. Tony Takla. How are you, Tony?
Very well, thank you, Monique.
Thanks so much for joining us today. I'll just give our listeners a bit of a background about your VCE journey, I guess, and all your successes, because there are plenty of them, but probably what our listeners need to know is that Tony graduated last year in 2015 with a whopping ATAR of 99.8. He got a 50 in English, and he also got a Premier's Award for that subject, which we will talk about a little bit later. And he's currently studying his first preference course, medicine, at Monash University. So I'll start from the very beginning with you, Tony, and we'll start with the very start of your VCE
journey, okay.
which was year 11. And you did a couple of 3-4 subjects in year 11, didn't you?
That's right. So I did biology and health, and I got those out of the way nice and early in year 11. And I guess the good thing about this was getting a feel of how VCE works, experimenting with different study techniques before year 12. And in the end, it worked out well, and that kind of alleviated a lot of the pressure from year 12. So going in with 2 subjects under your belt, I guess, as I said, made me a bit more relaxed, a bit more self-confident. And yeah, as I said, I learned a lot through the journey of doing them early, and that helped in year 12.
Okay, so I just might ask you, why did you decide to do 2 subjects to start off with before you knew because in the end you decided to do 4 in year 12?
That's correct.
What sort of expectations did you have of yourself going into it, and why did you make that decision?
Well, the thing is, you end up doing 6 subjects in total. And so the advantage of doing 2 in year 11 is that you do 4 instead of 5 in year 12. And 4 subjects compared to 5, I guess, as I said, you've got a lot more time to dedicate to those 4 subjects. And it's one of those things that you just go into and initially hope for the best. You don't know how things are going to go, and throughout the whole year, you get your sacks back, and you've got the up ones and some down ones, and it's very hard to tell how everything will sort of come together in the end. And you just have to wait till the exam and when you get your results and see how you went compared to everyone else in the state. It's one of those things that you just experience as you go. I don't think you can predict or be told how things will unfold.
Right. So you had no idea what sort of
scores
you'd be getting at the end of that year?
I mean, you can kind of gauge how you're going in terms of sacks, but you can never tell how other people are going at different schools. And I guess that's one of the exciting things about it, is you just go in, you give it your best shot, and you surprise yourself with the results.
Which you certainly did, and it
came
was a
out
nice
with surprise.
Fantastic results.
Yeah, so I guess when you put in the effort, you'll often reap the rewards. There's no doubt about that.
It's worth it in the end. So going into year 12 with those 2 amazing scores under your belt for your 2, 3, 4 subjects, and then going in having 4 subjects to do in year 12, what sort of goal did you have looking forward to the end of year 12 and going into university sort of thing?
Well, as I said, it kind of gives you a bit of a self-esteem boost, having 2 subjects done and you're happy with the scores that you got. So going into year 12, I was a bit more excited, a bit more hopeful about how things will turn out. And as I said, having that one subject less, you've got that bit more time to dedicate to your 4 subjects, and I guess to do other things as well, whether it's leadership, music, sport, just the things that you love, because I think a balance is key to doing well in VCE.
Fantastic. Did you have a particular number in mind at the start of the year, or were you just going in knowing that you wanted to do your best?
Yeah, I wanted to do my best. I didn't really put numbers in my head, just because I didn't want to disappoint myself or set an expectation that was too high or too low. As I said, VCE, it's one of those dynamic things that can go either way really easily. So I kept my head open and just went into it hoping for the best.
Put your head down and did lots of hard work.
Yeah.
And reap the rewards. Fantastic. So getting those scores at the end of year 12, as I said, you got a 99.8 ATAR with a 50 in English. Could you tell our listeners some of your top tips for studying and study habits if they're in year 11 or year 12 aiming for those extra high marks?
I think being organised is a key point here, and having a to-do list I found is very helpful, and the satisfaction that you get at the end of the night or day when you tick off those things, it just felt amazing. And I never really set myself an exact study table in terms of organising my time hour by hour. I just prioritised what I wanted to do, and that way if I didn't get through everything, there wouldn't be that disappointment of I didn't get through what I wanted to get through. So it's just about having a priority list and working through it and getting as much as you can done. I think I never limited myself in terms of this is what I want to get done and I'll stop there when I do get it done. I just left it open, and I guess it depends how you feel on different days. Some days you're feeling energetic and you can get a lot more done than you usually can. Other days you're not feeling as motivated, and I guess that all comes into play in terms of studying. Studying with friends can also be very helpful. For example, I wasn't very strong at maths. That wasn't one of my strongest subjects, but I had friends who were. And so it was very helpful for me to kind of go through exam questions or SAC questions together, and I received a lot of help from them. So your friends are a very powerful tool. Work on each other's strengths. Everyone has their own strengths. And don't be afraid to ask. Your teachers are there to help you. You're not by yourself. And I think that's the beauty of year 12, is that everyone's going through the same thing. Everyone's feeling the pressure at different times, and that does create a supportive environment that helps you get through it all.
And I think sometimes people are so busy and so wrapped up in doing their very best, because that is that competitive nature about VCE, that sometimes we forget that things like study groups and working together and even just working with a small group of friends is actually a really productive way,
Most
as long as you don't
certainly.
get too distracted.
Yeah, that's also another thing. So just doing it from time to time before a SAC when you know you're going to be productive. It doesn't, of course, work all the time. You do need the learn study time, but from time to time when you need the support and the extra help, it can be very powerful.
Right. And in terms of assessments, obviously you have the SACs throughout the year and then you had the final exam. What sort of mindset did you go into SACs with? What sort of preparation strategies did you have? And how did that assist you working towards that final exam?
For me, I really liked getting as many practice questions done before a SAC as I could. I wasn't the sort of person who could sit down and read notes or write notes. I had to be doing something actively, otherwise I would doze out easily. So I was all about collecting as many practice questions, if it's for English, as many past practice essays that people wrote, and I like to synthesize my own ideas out of what they had. And just seeing sample work was always very encouraging throughout the whole year. In terms of SACs though, I have to say it's very important to know that it's not the make all, be all, or like what I'm trying to get at here is that there are times when you can get a SAC mark and you're not happy with it, and it's very easy to kind of just fall into despair and think, oh, you know what, that's it, I blew it. And I certainly had a couple of those experiences. Year 12 isn't always, getting back the best SAC scores and everything you hoped for. But it's just about getting through these, more difficult times and reflecting and seeing what went wrong and how you can improve that so that you don't make the same mistakes next time.
Okay. So reflecting on SACs is obviously one of the really important things that you did. And I certainly think that that's an excellent idea and a way of growing, obviously, as you accumulate your knowledge towards the end of your exam so you don't make the same mistakes. Was there a kind of system that you had when you were reflecting on your SACs? Was it consulting teachers or discussing with friends or maybe revising notes?
All of these things together. So finding where the problem was, if I can kind of figure it out myself, if it was me not revising a particular part of the content, then that's something for me to go back and do. If it was example in English, I can go back and ask the teacher, well, why did this paragraph not work? Or why did this idea, how can I make it better? That's something you can often need guidance with instead of doing it on your own. Other times friends could be sufficient in terms of helping you develop your area of weakness or where things went wrong. So it's a combination of all these things. It's at times independent, other times you can rely on the support of those around you. And it's just a balance of those two.
All right. Seeking sort of information from lots of different places as well as working independently
that's exactly
to
right.
rectify those mistakes and make sure they don't happen again.
Perfectly put, yeah.
And looking towards the end of year exams, in terms of, you mentioned that you didn't make study timetables and that you more had these lists of prioritizing a bit of a to-do list, if you like. Okay. Did that remain the same during school holidays and SWAT vac leading up towards those final exams?
I think, it did pretty much stay the same. But obviously you've got a bit more time during exams and you can get through things a bit more efficiently. I also found revision lectures very helpful. So whether they were school run or externally, it's kind of a good way to consolidate things and get a perspective that's outside of your own school, outside of your own teachers, and just seeing where everyone's at. So those lectures are obviously open for any student doing VCE, and it's kind of good to see different people and see where everyone's at beforehand.
And in terms of a day-by-day sort of more practical example of how you used your SWAT vac period, did you tend to spend like an entire day studying, or did you give yourself a bit of time off? I know from our discussions that you're sometimes a bit of a night owl, so you like to study into the evening. Did that work throughout SWAT vac?
Look, for me, I always had to take breaks. I couldn't sit down and just study for more than, I don't know, look, it depended. I can't stay for long periods of time doing the same thing. So one of my coping strategies was to switch up things. So I might do maths for half an hour and then I'll take a break, do something different, come back to it. Yeah, I don't know, I kind of like my afternoon naps. So I'd wake up refreshed and continue studying a bit longer throughout the night. Okay. The good thing about that is everyone's asleep at home. Your friends are also asleep.
Yeah,
so that takes away a lot of the distractions. Exactly. There's no Facebook, there's no one online, and you've just got that time to yourself to focus more.
And I guess that depends on, if we're talking towards our listeners, it depends on whether they are going to be productive into the night, or maybe if they want to get up early and study. It just sort of depends on your sleeping habits and things like that.
That's right, yeah. So there is no one way of doing it. It's just what works best for you. And I think constant breaks, maybe every couple of nights, if you just want to go study at a friend's house, just to change up the environment a bit so you don't get bored from sitting down at your desk every day for the whole time. That kind of kept things a bit more engaging.
So it sounds like that what they say about variety is the spice of life. That applies to your study strategies heading towards exams, especially when you got so much time off and so much time to focus on those studies.
That's right. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's all the questions I had in terms of study habits and particular study techniques. But you did have more than just your academic studies to focus on during Year 12. You were school captain. I guess one of my questions in regards to leadership was, how did you decide that you wanted to get involved with leadership in Year 12, and how did you balance the time, in terms of time management? How did you balance academia with leadership?
Well, I think my passion for leadership kind of began in the earlier years, and it's one of those things that you just build on and your interest grows. So by the time Year 12 arrived, I thought that this is something I want to continue with. And so I applied for school captain and received the role. And for me, that was one of the breaks from studying. So, for example, if I feel like I've done the work that I needed to get done and I need a break, I would perhaps go and work on a presentation or a speech that was coming up. And that was kind of my break from studying. It's something I enjoyed, practicing a speech in front of a mirror. These things kind of made Year 12 a bit more dynamic. You had something else to focus on or to shift your attention towards rather than just your work. So for me, it was one of the more exciting parts of Year 12. And it's one of those things that stays with you, for the experiences and the people that you meet and get to work with. It's perhaps one of the most memorable things about Year 12. And yeah, as I said, it's what stays with you, not the score. It's not just about the academic part of it.
All about the experience throughout the whole year.
And the friendships that you build and the people that you interact with. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely a memorable part of your year, it sounds like. And looking at it sort of more practically in terms of time management, because you did talk about like taking study breaks and focusing a little bit on your leadership duties and then coming back to your studies. Were there any moments throughout the year that you were maybe like overwhelmed with the amount that you had taken on, or struggled to find time to balance the two? Because obviously being school captain is a fairly big commitment to make. Yeah. How did you manage that in those really stressful SAC periods?
Yeah, a couple of those moments throughout the year, specifically towards the end of the year, when there were a few things to do in terms of leadership responsibilities, so graduation speeches and final assembly speeches and organising things like that. And at the same time, exams had begun at this point. French, I remember we had 1 week that had the oral, we had a few last assemblies, and graduation was that week as well.
It was jam-packed.
It all kind of piled up into this 1 week, and it felt like it was a bit too much. But looking back, it's probably one of the most memorable, most exciting weeks I've had during Year 12. And it's just working through it when you're feeling overwhelmed and getting the support from those around you and seeing things work out in the end. During that week, you feel stressed and overwhelmed. But once you kind of get over that week, get over that hump, and see how things turned out, it is more rewarding when it's been a bit more stressful. So I think it's important to keep doing the things that you love, but at the same time, you should prioritize and not overwhelm yourselves. So it's about finding this balance between keeping on doing the things that you love, but perhaps not pushing it too much to a point where you're constantly overwhelmed. I mean, those moments are bound to happen. They're bound to rise. VCEs, you do have those unexpected things come up. But if it's a constant thing throughout the whole year, I think that's counterproductive. So it's about finding that balance.
Yeah, and I guess that balance to find is a very personal thing, but it is quite tricky.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember struggling with that throughout my VCE, finding that balance between the social and the leadership and the academia. But I think, like you said, in the end, I think it's very reassuring for our listeners to know that they do have those really stressful times, but you'll look back on them, hopefully, very fondly, and enjoy. I guess it's about enjoying the process, isn't it?
Exactly.
All about the journey,
It's all about
as
the
well
journey.
as the destination.
Exactly, that's right. Year 12, going into it, I thought it's going to be a stressful year where you just have your head down and study all the time, but as I mentioned a lot of times before, it is one of the most exciting years of high school. Everyone's like one big family. Everyone's going through the same thing. The support that you get from those around you, it's just an amazing year, and it's a very memorable one. If you choose for it to be that way. So it's about enjoying it and just getting the most out of it.
And now, as I mentioned, you're studying medicine after that incredible year that you had. You got that, as I mentioned, you got that score out of it and you managed to get into medicine at Monash University. Was that a big surprise for you, or was that something that you'd kind of expected? Or
No, I think it was a big surprise. It's something that I always wanted to do. It was like a big dream. And, at various stages during year 12, there were those moments where I thought, look, it's just not going to happen. It's not for me. Things aren't going my way. I don't think it will end up working out. And I guess I was prepared to take my second options, and I applied in other states around Victoria. So I think receiving that email on offers day was a big surprise, and it was a very pleasant surprise to see that things did come together in the end, the way that you'd always hoped they would. So I guess you just do your best and keep your options open, keep your mind open, and if things are meant to be, they will be.
And as you touched on there, it was a big dream for you, but you didn't just apply. You didn't just have this one university where you had to do medicine. You applied interstate, didn't you?
That's right. And I had to go a couple of different places for interviews. And I guess if you want something so much, you should be willing to make the sacrifices. Of course, it's not easy leaving your home and family and studying interstate or overseas for some people. But if you want to make it work, there are so many ways out there that you can make it work. So if you're passionate about something, I think just go for it, regardless of the extent that you have to go to get there.
Fantastic. I just wanted to talk to you before we go about the transition from high school to university, because that's going to be something that some of our class of 2016 will be thinking towards the end of this year and the start of 2017. Can you tell us a bit about the intensity of the medicine course and how it differed from your year 12 studies, what you were expecting maybe?
Yeah, uni is very different from high school in so many different ways. It's a lot more self-driven. It's about you. There is no limit to how much you can learn. I felt that with my course, it's up to you how far you want to go with each different concept. So lecturers will just introduce the very basics, and it's up to you to decide where you want to go with that. People won't follow you up for work. You're going to have to work with people that you've never met before. And it's just about being open-minded and enjoying it as much as you can. First few weeks were definitely a bit of a struggle for me in terms of adapting to everything. The workload felt a bit more strenuous than high school, than year 12. But once you kind of settle in, it's the same with everything. It's like going into year 7 from primary school. Every step is different, and the change is often difficult at the start. But once you settle in, things begin to make sense, and you begin to cruise along. So that's all good. It's an exciting time of your life. It's a big change. You become an adult, and everything is about you. It's a lot more self-driven, self-motivated, as I mentioned. And yeah, it's just about enjoying that and making the most of it. People are lovely in university.
That's good.
There's no high school dramas. Everyone's friendly. Everyone's friends with everyone. And that makes the transition a lot more, much more smooth.
Sounds like support groups in year 12 kind of relate to those support groups in university as well, surrounding yourself with those good people.
That's right.
One final question I have for you, Tony, before we finish up.
Yep.
We've covered such a broad amount of advice that you've given our listeners today, which I'm sure they're very appreciative of. But I'd like to ask you if there's one piece of advice that you could give yourself at the start of VCE, or maybe currently completing VCE, if there's one sort of rule of thumb that VCE students could follow, what would that be?
Cherish every moment of that year, because it goes by so quickly. I remember towards the end of year 12, it just happened so fast. It was unreal how quickly it all came to an end. Look, everyone after year 12 will go their separate ways. It's not as easy as it was to see your friends every day like you used to. And that's something that you miss after year 12. It's so hard organising catch-ups with friends who are all over the place. Some are interstate. So enjoy going there every morning and seeing your close group of friends, and having those close relationships with everyone around you, with the place itself, with teachers who really care for you. Because that's something I really enjoyed. And, from time to time when I think about it, I do miss that very close and intimate atmosphere that you get at school. And year 12 is probably the best time to experience this support and this care that you'll receive from others around you. So just enjoy it. That's all I can say.
Thank you so much, Tony.
That's all right. Thank you for having me.
Not only have you achieved great academic success through VCE, but it's very obvious that your high school and your VCE was so much more than that. And it sounds like you enjoyed it immensely. And you've gone on to begin your big dream that you started out with, which is very exciting. So thank you so much for taking the time to give our listeners a bit of advice.
Thank you very much for having me. And I wish everyone who's listening to this podcast all the best with their VCE studies. Don't be afraid to ask questions, as I said, whether it's your teachers, your friends, or people who've already gone through this journey. I think everyone's there to help. So be sure to use those great facilities and resources that you have.
And stay tuned, everyone, because I'm sure we'll be hearing much more from Tony in the future in his successes and with future advice potentially for you all. If you'd like to check out the advice that Tony has given us today, a bit of a summary, you can go to www.thecheatsheet.net.au/Tony, Tony, and check out his advice there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Like this episode? Head to thecheatsheet.net.au for show notes, real-life cheat sheets, and links to our social media pages. Thanks for listening.